What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing a possible haunted underwater ghost town in New Jersey. As I looked through things to cover for this week, I couldn't believe my good luck when I came across something from my beloved home state of New Jersey. I didn't come across it by accident, and I want to give a shout out to my sister, Carol Varick, for bringing this to my attention because I had no idea. This is a place I definitely plan on traveling to someday soon and seeing what I pick up, because although I had never heard of it until the other day when my sister texted me about it, I feel like it would be a treasure trove of information, especially for someone like me. As most of us know, looks can be very deceiving, especially when it comes to places that look pristine, peaceful, and like a nice, tranquil spot to visit for a little vacation. The calm and beauty walk in step with the menacing energy and overall off feeling that people like us get in some places, even when we can't quite put our fingers on why we're feeling that way, or why we don't seem to be as relaxed or fooled by the majesty of it all as everyone else seems to be. There's a place like this that, from the outside looking in, is a popular tourist destination and fisherman's paradise. It's called Round Valley Reservoir, and it's located in Hunterdon County in Clinton Township, New Jersey. I would say it's a paranormalist paradise as well, and there seem to be forces lurking and at work in this place that are beyond the realm of the understanding of most people who end up being confronted with it all. I know some of you may not be following just yet, but stay with me because this one takes the cake for the strange and the bizarre, the unexplainable activity, and overall mysteriousness. With all that being said, let's jump right in. Round Valley Reservoir is a popular fishing spot that covers 2,350 acres, 8 square kilometers, and is up to 180 feet, which is approximately 55 meters deep, in some places in the lake. It's New Jersey's largest and deepest man-made lake, and it's the second largest lake in the entire state. This reservoir was created in 1960 by the New Jersey Water Authority, which flooded a circular valley, which is the reason for the name Round Valley. After the construction of 2 large dams, it's surrounded by the Cushintook Mountain. It was originally created to provide water mainly to Bergen and Essex counties, mainly for Newark, I heard, but the surrounding towns as well. But it opened for fishing in 1972. It became a popular spot almost instantly among not only fishermen and women, but for families just looking to have a nice day out on the lake every once in a while. The surrounding wilderness areas are lush and incredibly scenic and would leave anyone who visits finally understanding why New Jersey is called the Garden State. It offers scuba facilities, camping, boating, hiking, and bike trails, as well as many other outdoor activities that would be too many to list here today. It was opening the lake up for fishing that started boosting its popularity among the locals and tourists alike, and the lake is stocked with a large variety of species of fish. It's one of only 2 lakes in New Jersey that is populated by lake trout. Other fishes in the lake include, but aren't limited to, bass, trout, pickerel, catfish, American eels, brown and rainbow trout, and yellow perch, and many of the state records were caught right there in the reservoir. It really is a sight to behold as far as what I could tell, guys, and a beautiful and fun place for any outdoor enthusiast to visit. I know that for me, I do not like to swim in water where I can't see the floor, and that includes lakes and even the ocean, and even with water shoes. It kind of freaks me out, but that wouldn't be a problem at Round Valley Reservoir because the water in the lake is remarkably clear. And you can see down to the bottom at least 20 feet or more. And all told, it's a fisherman and outdoor enthusiast dream spot to have a fun-filled day doing the things they love. However, this is the Gemma Jade channel, right? And for as great as all of that is, you know, for me to be talking about this place, there has to be something underneath it all. There's something mysterious and possibly insidious hiding just below the depths and within the shadows of this gorgeous reservoir. One of those features is the unexplained deaths and disappearances of not only fishermen, but swimmers, hikers, kayakers, and really anyone who's out there for any reason. No one is safe from the darkness that overtakes this cursed land, and once you're there and your guard is down, you never know if you're going to be the one who's next or not. While some of the deaths are of course caused by drowning or people unaliving themselves, a lot of the aforementioned people have gone missing completely without a trace, and there are others still who were the victims of crazy, freakish accidents that make no sense at all. Since 1971, there have been a total of 26 and counting deaths and disappearances, and the number has risen so steadily that most people familiar with the reservoir and what's going on there have taken to referring to it as New Jersey's Bermuda Triangle. 6 bodies out of those 26 and rising and counting have never been recovered, and those are just the ones on record that we know about. One of the first cases to become somewhat infamous in the area happened on May 4th, 1973, when a 23-year-old man named Thomas Tremblett and his brother-in-law, 22-year-old Christopher Jakazowski, took a 12-foot aluminum boat out onto the lake to go fishing. At some point, while they were out there having a good time, and seemingly for no apparent reason, the boat capsized and the men went under. Their bodies were never recovered, and the 2 men were never seen or heard from again. There was, of course, an extensive search and rescue effort to find the 2 men, but all that they ever turned up was an oar, the boat, some fishing tackle, and 2 unused life preservers. There had been some smaller and lesser known cases of strange accidents and disappearances before this case caused a frenzy, but it seems to be the one that started people finally noticing all of the mysterious vanishings happening in and around the lake. 4 years after that guy and his brother-in-law had their accident and seemingly vanished into thin air, an 18-year-old named Craig Steer and his friend Andrew Fasanella, who was only 20 years old, were last seen traveling along the north shoreline of the reservoir in a canoe. They seemingly disappeared off the face of the earth along with the 2 before them. A few days later, they were reported as missing, and another extensive search and rescue mission was attempted, but all that was found of these 2 poor young men was their empty canoe, which washed up on the shore all by itself. These 2 men were also never seen or heard from again, and no bodies of any of them were ever found. On March 14th, 1989, 37-year-old John Kuby and his friend Albert Lawson were out on a fishing trip on the lake when they vanished too. Albert's body was eventually recovered in 1993, but John Kuby's was never located. In yet another bizarre case, on October 22nd, 1993, 2 men named Jeffrey Moore and Raymond Barr were out on the lake fishing and just enjoying a nice and peaceful, relaxing day when, in full view of other boaters and other witnesses, and while the water was calm and clear, on a gorgeous and otherwise beautiful day, their boat capsized for seemingly absolutely no reason at all. One of the boaters who was nearby rushed over to try and rescue the unsuspecting men and managed to pull Raymond Barr from the water, but Jeffrey Moore was never found. Now, guys, this one really puts it into perspective. These 2 men, who, as far as I could tell, were only around like 27 years old, capsized while other boaters watched it happen. There seemed to have been no logical or reasonable explanation as to why it happened in the first place, and immediately when it happened, people rushed over to help the 2 men. There is absolutely no reason why they both weren't right there when the other boaters and onlookers got there to help. But in the minute or 2 it took for the others to get out there and start looking for them, Jeffrey had seemingly vanished off the face of the earth and his body was never found. His body has never been recovered, and there was never any trace of him or what became of him, and to this day, it all remains a giant mystery still. Through the years, there have been many search and rescue attempts with trained authorities and other SNR personnel going into the deepest depths of the reservoir in order to locate not just the above-mentioned missing men, but others who have gone without a trace from the lake as well. However, any success has been elusive and nothing has ever been recorded, and not even a single clue has ever turned up as to what could have possibly happened to all of these people. In 1977, a battery-powered submersible, which are typically used for and in oil rigs, was put into the lake in order to get a better look at what was lurking in the depths of it. It was state-of-the-art for the time and should have had no problem at all in finding the missing bodies and or whatever else was down there, but still in all, it was not successful at all. The sub was piloted by an expert and seasoned operator, a man named Andre Galerny. This guy, Andre, had actually worked for none other than Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau was a very famous underwater explorer and filmmaker who basically introduced the world to the underwater world of not only lakes but oceans as well. He was a pioneer, and he actually invented the first ever aqualung, which makes it so that divers can breathe while underwater. Despite this man's credentials and his having worked with the legendary Jacques Cousteau, it took only 1 week for him to determine there were no bodies under the lake or in the reservoir at all, and that the mission was a total failure. The authorities and the loved ones weren't done searching though, and in 1999, recovery of the missing bodies was attempted once again. This time it was the New Jersey State Troopers, who were specially trained for underwater diving and recovery missions, who went into the water to try and find the missing people. However, that effort in particular was said to be severely hampered by submerged tree trunks and an extreme amount of, quote, underwater growth, and, quote, whatever that means. Things grow underwater. They even went into the deepest parts of the lake where no one had ever gone before, and they didn't find anything at all, and they didn't find anyone. Again, in 2006, a submarine was brought in to look for bodies, but it was the same result as all of the other times, and it seems as though those missing men, and possibly some women as well, even though I didn't specifically mention any here, that doesn't mean there weren't or aren't any, simply and bizarrely weren't in the lake. Now, I went back and looked into that, and from what I could find, it is all men. Through the years in between and since, there have been even more attempts at recovering all of the lost bodies both on the land and in the water. The searches typically happen when the water levels are lower, and specifically trained cadaver dogs trained to sniff out not only bodies but bones, bone fragments, teeth, and articles/scraps of clothing are brought in, but nothing and no one has ever been recovered, not even in the woods or along the waterline. While most of the official searches have been complete failures, there have been a few success stories throughout the years. A 56-year-old fisherman named Kenneth Rodahin was found in about 70 feet of water when a state police marine unit picked up an anomaly on sonar and sent in rescue divers to see what it was. Apparently, he had been fishing in a canoe and was only about 20 yards from the shore, and it's still unknown what happened to him or how he ended up in the water in the first place. In 2014, another body of a kayaker was recovered in 51 feet of water. This is another one of those cases where there seems to be no clue, no rhyme, and no reason as to how or why he had been in the water to begin with, or what happened to him when it said it would have been relatively easy for him to have reached land or safety, but instead he ended up drowning. So where this guy was found, and where they were pretty sure he had come from, he could have literally walked. If his boat capsized, he could have walked along the bottom and made it to safety. So why didn't he? While to some people all of this may sound rather mundane, it's actually not. It's extremely strange and disturbing that so many people die out there drowning, and there's never any reason why they were ever in the water. Like, okay, they're out boating, they're out canoeing, they're out kayaking, they're fishing. Why are they in the water? It keeps happening again and again, but people still go there thinking it won't happen to them. That only happens in the movies. It isn't like there's a rip current, and remember I mentioned you can see fairly deep down into the water. On most days, it's basically just a regular calm and tranquil lake when someone would want to go out there, and yet people keep capsizing and then drowning and or disappearing. They're only lucky if they're recovered and not lost to whatever the hell is out there or under that water. In July of 2014, there was another strange case when a man named Chen Xiao, who was only 24 years old at the time, was out on the lake kayaking. He was 150 yards from the shore when he fell into the water. There was an eyewitness to this event, and while there's no information as to who the onlooker was and why he didn't even seem to try and help, what he had to say was very interesting and very disturbing, to say the least. This witness said that he saw Chen fall out of his kayak but couldn't tell why he had done it in the first place. He watched him struggle to get back in, and it should have been fairly easy for him to do so, as he wasn't a large man and the lake was extremely calm that day, but for whatever reason, he absolutely could not get himself back into the kayak and ended up drowning because of it. On top of all of that, it took the police 6 whole hours while searching with sonar to recover Chen's body. even though they knew where he was because somebody had seen it happen. In 1989, 2 amateur divers came across the macabre sight of a whole human skeleton while they were just 50 feet down the lake. The skeleton was still wearing green rubber boots and it was covered in tattered pieces of clothing. The body was later identified as a fisherman who capsized and went missing without a trace in 1976, with everyone thinking he drowned but being unable to find the body. That particular case was really weird because he hadn't been alone when he died, but had a friend with him. That friend was found 11 months later in an eerie similar position to how the skeletal remains of his friend were found. In March of 2012, a hiker who was walking along Pine Tree Trail noticed a head bobbing up and down in the lake and called the authorities, as one usually does. The victim, upon further forensic examination, was never identified other than to say he had been a white male in his 20s or 30s, and it's a mystery as to what he was doing or how he ended up in the lake in the first place. It's also unknown how he died or who he was. It's still a mystery to this day. A fisherman named Edward P. Woodell Jr. was out fishing and relaxing on the lake one warm spring day in March of 2012. He got the shock of his life when something tugged on his line. When he reeled it in, it was a boot that contained the partial skeleton of a human foot. He called the police, and though they looked for more remains or other clues as to the person's identity who belonged to the boot and foot, they never got any answers to those things, and they never found out who belonged to the partial boot and foot. All of the strange deaths and unexplained disappearances have given Round Valley Reservoir a very bad name, and it has taken on an air of mystery and intrigue as people from all over like to speculate as to why so many deaths and disappearances seem to be connected to this one particular area. As you all know, there's no such thing as coincidence in my mind, and I only covered the tip of the iceberg as far as things that have happened to people here. These are just the most famous and well-covered cases, and there are, at the very least, dozens more that I didn't even mention or get into in this video. Of course, with all of the unanswered questions, people are left with nothing but legends, rumors, their own imaginations, and tons of speculation. Many people local to the area believe that the lake was built over sacred native burial grounds and that, for this very reason, it's cursed by angry and vengeful spirits. While it's true that the land was the home of the Lenape Native Americans, and while many people believe this is a very possible explanation as to why the lake and land itself seems to be cursed, I have some issues with that explanation. While I don't have any definitives, I will say this. There's no evidence to support or to go against the fact that, just like many other native tribes in the area at the time, the Lenape might have traveled before colonization, and while they stayed in the same general region, they could have buried their dead along the way. A lot of tribes that were traveling buried their dead as they went. That's why whenever someone says a property was built on an ancient or an old Indian burial ground, I'll say, show me a native burial ground. Show me one. I'm not saying they don't exist, and I know I'm going to get crap in the comments, but I know what I've been told by direct sources about the natives' habit of burying their dead where they fell. It might not have been true for this particular tribe in this particular region, but I only say that because, as I already stated, no evidence exists one way or another. It just makes the most sense to me that if they traveled, if they weren't walking however many miles for however many days back to any burial grounds, and it would make sense that they would bury their dead along the way. However, I don't have any actual facts to back that up that I can point you to or show you or direct you to, so I'll just leave it up in the air. Maybe they colonized themselves in that one spot before official colonization happened. I don't know. So as it stands, many people believe this is actually a very good explanation as to what's happening out there, and this is just all the more reason I need to go and get out there someday soon. Maybe this fall. Who knows? Guys, if any of you know differently and have facts and documented reputable sources, then please let me know in the comments below. Respect yourself and others, though, should you choose to put it down there or respond to what I just said. Thanks. Other, more wild speculation has the lake being home to strange creatures and monsters that lurk beyond where we humans are able to get to, but that doesn't make much sense to me either, because there have been many attempted rescue missions where submarines did go down into those depths. Plus, it's a man-made lake, so in my opinion, a lake monster is the most absurd thing I'd ever heard, but hey, to each his own. So there's another legend concerning the lake that I wanted to get into here, and it's about a possible ghost town, a whole town that exists under the lake. Now, it's not a legend that this town existed. It was there. What to make of that, I don't know. It's said to lie at the bottom and be complete with buildings, houses, silos, fences, rows, trees, etc. It's said to be deeply submerged in the cold and dark depths of the lake's water. When looking at the history of the lake's creation, there seems to be some credibility to this one as well. According to Mysterious Universe, quote, when the plans to flood the valley in order to make the reservoir and address water shortage issues were put into effect, there were locals who opposed the project and resisted selling their land to the government. When the state moved in and began purchasing properties and land in earnest, many residents ended up facing an ultimatum: either move their homes at their own expense or leave them behind. It is said that although many abandoned houses and structures were demolished or salvaged before flooding off the valley began, others are rumored to have remained standing when the water came pouring in, end quote. So it is actually quite plausible that there was indeed a town already there, and I looked into it after I wrote this. There was. The legend goes on to say that there are ghosts, literal ghosts, and earthbound spirits who aren't at rest under the lake, inside of the lake, in the town, and they haunt the lake and terrorize anyone who dares to disrespect it or merely just have the alleged gall to be anywhere in, near, or around the water that they did not want there in the first place. There does seem to be an inordinate number of people who fall into the lake and can't get out, even though there seems to be no reason at all why this should be, or why they should be drowning instead of simply getting back into their boats, swimming to shore, or walking to shore. Honestly, with everything I know about the paranormal and how restless and sometimes evil spirits operate, this makes the most sense to me as to what's going on at Round Valley Reservoir. There's always the safety of the boats or the shore, and it's almost like unseen hands or some other unseen forces are pulling the victims down with them to a watery grave. So to play devil's advocate, I'm just going to give a quick, rather mundane explanation. Quote from MU. They said, quote, besides malevolent spirits, curses, and underwater ghosts, the real reason for the deaths and vanished people is likely something more mundane and tied to the unique nature of the land and its locale. Round Valley Reservoir is situated in the middle of a circular valley, which is conducive to producing sudden, powerful gusts of wind that are magnified within the valley's confines. These winds are known to reach speeds of up to 40 miles per hour or more and whip up out of nowhere to produce waves of surprising sizes, which could in turn be responsible for some of the reports of capsized boats. These fierce winds are known to howl into the lake out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly, end quote. The lake's water is extremely cold, guys, and that's because of the depths and the altitude of it. It's really deceptive because even on warm days in the spring and summertime, when one might assume the water is warm because of how hot it is outside or how brightly the sun's shining, the water is still extremely cold and frigid. There's the panicking of the victims for this reason, or so many others and so many mundane and ordinary explanations, but I have a feeling it has more to do with what roams and lurks in the wilderness and forest that surrounds the lake than anything else. Until I get more information or get out there myself, though, we will never know, but can speculate to our heart's content. It's only a 47-minute drive from my house to the reservoir itself, so I'll make sure I bring you all with me when I finally get out there. Despite all of the information to the contrary, a lot of which you can research on your own, there's the chance that some malevolent paranormal force is at work here and that it'll continue claiming victims until the end of time. Guys, there was so much information about why it can't be something supernatural that I definitely felt the need here to advocate for that being the most likely reason. I do think it's something in the woods. Like, I really, really do. I don't like when people right away just dismiss the paranormal in general, because that means they're dismissing people like me and like so many of you, of us here in this community who can't unsee certain things or reasonably try to trick ourselves into some ordinary type of answer. The truth is out there. It's just much harder to not only prove, but it's also harder to accept for most people. Is the lake cursed or overrun with malevolence? Is it merely the shape of it and the weather? I don't know, and I'll leave it up for you guys to decide. Let me know what you all think in the comments below, please. And also, let me know if there's a place like this where you live that you would like for me to cover. It doesn't have to be like this, but like a town that has a spooky urban legend, or a ghost town, or some, you know, cryptid like Jersey has Jersey Devil. Like, what is it about your town or your state the city you live in. Let me know. I would love, love, love to do a only in your state series or something like that, starting off with the good old state of New Jersey, like once a month or something like that, whenever I get around to it, I guess. Guys, that's all I have for you today. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, and if you enjoyed hanging out with each other in the premiere. Spread the love by sharing this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if you think you're subscribed, please go back and double check and make sure your notification bell is turned on. Please check out the description box for some important links and other important information that maybe some of you guys are just getting to know me, just getting to know the channel. I think some of you guys that do know me really don't know a lot of what I do off of YouTube or like what I'm about. You can find links to the Kindle and paperback versions of all 3 of my books on Amazon, ways to donate, PayPal, Cash App, join my Patreon, or send me a gift through my Amazon wish list gift link. On Wednesday nights, right here on this channel, you will find myself and Ghost Dragon ZW from 7:15-ish p.m. Eastern Time until 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I pull one random oracle card and give whoever comes in for one an intuitive oracle reading. If you don't know about intuitive oracle or what it is that I do personals. All of that information is in the description box as well. Wednesday night is a really good opportunity, if you're interested in that, to come on in and see what it's all about and, you know, see what it really is that I do. On any given Thursday, you will find either myself, Ghost Dragon ZW, and Miss Lara on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on the channel with Chillax and Chat, or you will find just Miss Paranormal Pixie, Miss Lara, for conversations with Lara, and she basically answers your questions, talks a lot about spirituality, crystals. She does a lot on that stream, and I know so many of you guys love that. And Lara, if you're watching, I love you, baby, and thank you so much for helping bring people in and keep people interested. Every other Monday at 12 noon, you will find myself and Ghost Dragon ZW doing afternoon talk. That's 12 Eastern. We're trying to get guests on. So the Monday you are watching this premiere, if you're watching the premiere at 11 a.m. Eastern, 12 noon Eastern, we will be back on live. On Friday nights at midnight and Saturday nights at midnight Eastern Time, you will find Ghost Dragon ZW live from the Dragon's Den, Midnight Vibes and Chill with Ghost Dragon ZW. And he goes for an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours. You guys just, he talks about, I don't even know what y'all get into in there, but I know that it's a popular show and you guys are really happy to have it. Be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. I don't feel well, which is kind of why I rushed through this video. I have a fever. My nose is congested. I'm filming this on Thursday after I did Oracle last night. Those of you that were in there know that I was getting really sick. That's why I'm a little tongue-tied. I'm very hot. I have a fever. I'm just no good. So forgive me for kind of breezing right through this one. If no one told you today, you are amazing, you are incredible, you can do anything you set your mind to. Your birthright is abundance as a human being. Don't let anyone make you feel less than or tell you you can't do something, you can't be something. If nobody told you today, I believe in you. For any correspondence, questions, to order a personal, to order a mist, a spray, a spiritual helper box, just to talk to me in general, if you want me to come on your show, if you want to be on one of my live streams, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. If you want a signed copy of any of my books, please hit me up, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com, before you make the purchase. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.